Good day, folks. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Trevor and I am your one-armed bandit in the bush. Today I'm driving through Arizona. It's on my third day of my third excursion that I am taking out west. This time I'll be out for a few months. It's been quiet over the Christmas period. After my last trip, there was a lot of work I had to get done on Pumbaa to get it ready for this excursion. There were a number of problems that I had. There's a lot of videos on those, but just sort of top line, I damaged the gas tank, both in Lockhart Basin and in the recovery in Mojave Desert. At first I thought it might have been an airlock on my tank, but when I looked I saw the tank had been damaged. As a consequence, I was only really able to fill just over half a tank before the pump would start to cut off, and I would have to go 0.2 of a gallon at a time to try to get gas in. What that started doing was I got a range of about 150 on a tank because of the amount that I could fill. So it was absolutely diabolical when I was trying to travel. If I went off-road, I just plain and simply didn't have range, because when you think about it, in many cases we can get as low as about a gallon to a mile. So you're not going anywhere, and that means you got to carry a lot of extra gas, and that just buggers up the consumption yet again. So what's been done? So the steps were damaged. They were supposed to be rock slider steps. They ended up being step plows, thanks to four-wheel parts of Nashville. Complete bugger up with that job. So that got damaged. There was no real protection underbody, so there was a fair bit that I did. One of the last videos that I put out, you would have seen I replaced the headlights. I did get stuck. I had to drive at night. My headlights were not up to it, so I've replaced the front headlights with LEDs. I've put an engine skid plate in from RCI. I'll put up a separate video of that install. That was quite humorous, if not somewhat challenging, but it's in. I had the canopy repaired because it was, of the seals had been blown out, and it was my fault for not checking and tightening. So that's all been repaired. There's quite a few other things. I've Linexed front bumper, back bumper. I've put rubber seals in the tailgate, so that it's now absolutely 100% airtight, and with that air pocket in there, I'm hoping that I don't get a spot of dust any longer in my in the back of the cab. It should work out. The rooftop tent, whoa, my word. So I wasn't planning on doing anything about my rooftop tent, other than, of course, the ladder that went faulty. That's documented. It got replaced. I was happy. But after the snows, guess what? The shell of the rooftop tent cracked in two places. So that was still under warranty. Fortunately, that got replaced. The guys at Overland Vehicle Systems were good enough to suggest that I changed the tent. They've recommended the Mamba, so that's a V shell instead of a clamshell. Much easier to operate. I tell you what, this baby, I think, definitely I'll get it set up in less than a minute. I can break it, I think, in under 2 completely. So that's going to be a huge advantage, because, with the old tent, I had challenges with that darn mattress, so I went for a air memory Komodo top. I had 2 of them. The first one I got rid of, and I just kept the double mattress. That worked okay, but a lot of graft, because I got to pump the, inflate the mattress. Self-inflation doesn't really work good enough. But I then had to deflate it if I wanted to. Well, not if I wanted to. I had to roll it up. If I wanted to try leave it in the tent, I had to suck every bit out of it using the air compressor. So I'm going to save a ton of time there, and not only that, a lot of hassle. So leads to higher levels of motivation if things are not as difficult to do all the time. So that's been done. I've decided to change from using the little green propane screwing 1 pound gas can it is, and I bought myself a 5 pound gas canister with a bracket that I've mounted in the back that had to go on the Molly panel. A separate video on that, quite interesting, trying to get in behind that Molly panel, so I'll show you what I did on that. Hopefully that thing works out good, so a lot of work has been done. I'm excited. Right now I'm in Arizona. I'm headed towards Wickenburg. I have an appointment there on Friday for some business that I need to do. I arranged to have a gun belt made at Ben's Saddlery and Leather Shop. So I see them on Friday. Looking forward to see how that's going to turn out. Hopefully they can finish it for me next week. So I'm going to be in the greater Wickenburg area for at least a week, maybe more. A lot of trails out there. I never got to do any trails. In fact, I didn't get to smell the dirt when I was there last. So looking forward to that. The weather outlook, the forecast over the next week and a half looks good. There's a little bit of rain, so hopefully we can get to test the tent in the rain. I do have, and I did manage to find 4-inch ducting. I think I got a 20-foot piece of 4-inch ducting to go on my gas heater. So that's going to be something I'm looking forward to seeing. And of course this tent has a different way of connecting and installing the gas heater. So I think I'm going to be able to run it completely differently. I've got a few ideas. We'll see how that works out if I need it. Yeah, so a little bit of graft, a few extra things. Oh yes, of course. What am I thinking about? The fridge slider. So instead of having my fridge sliding around, I now have a slider for my fridge, the drop down tilt. So that's going to be massively more beneficial, much easier for me to use, keeps it secure. There's no ways it now gets damaged from being ratchet tied against the side of the vehicle, and any minor movements causes hard rubbing friction against the side of the tent. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping that's now a thing of the past, so I'm not going to have to worry too much about that. So a lot of improvements, and I think things are going to make quite a bit of a difference when I get there. I haven't flown the drone in a while, so maybe I have to spend a day or two just getting my skills kind of reoriented there, and then we'll get that fella up in the air. So my ETA is sort of mid-afternoon in Wickenburg. I will probably look to have dinner because I have a deep freezer loaded with steak. So you're going to see me eating steak all trip long. Looking forward to that because they've all been pre-cooked in the sous vide. They've been vacuum packed. I just need to sear them, so life is easy when it comes to that. Thank you, Melissa, my darling, for pre-cooking all of my steaks, for vacuum packing them, and for freezing them for me. I am pretty certain that I will be thinking of you not only all the time, but at meal times in a very, very, very special and very grateful way. So, sounds like a great trip lined up, don't it? Stay down, baby, because we'll be in Wickenburg pretty soon. I'll get myself a little bit of a nosh, and then go find a campsite. The gas tank has been doing marvelously so far. So, just back to that, I completely replaced the stock tank, which is a 26 gallon, and it's made of a PVC type compound. I replaced that with a aluminum 46 gallon replacement tank, which I purchased from Exit Off-Road. This tank is made in Australia. Separate, not a separate video on that. That I had installed by Toyota of Cool Springs in Nashville. So, the good thing about that is it's been installed properly. I used the Toyota dealer to do it. I'm happy with the way it's worked out. On my first tank, I got 450 miles, and that was a combination of urban driving and some highway driving, which took through about the first half tank. So when I left Monday morning from home in Nashville, I was on just over half a tank. My fuel consumption at that point was averaging around 10.5 miles to the gallon. I rode that tank out. I managed to get 450 out of it, and the gas consumption improved on the motorway drive to 11.1 miles to the gallon. Now, that was at 65 miles an hour. With no wind conditions, it was a great clear day for driving. However, 65 miles an hour is a really very, very tedious speed to drive at when you've got 1800 miles to go. So I wanted to just obviously firstly check how much I get out of the tank on motorway conditions in particular. I wanted to check the relationship between what the gas consumption was, what the onboard computer is telling me in terms of miles range left on the tank, just to get a sense of those. So I've been using my Trip A meter rather extensively. In fact, on every tank I reset it, just to monitor and watch what happens. The second tank I got just over 400 on. I increased the mileage to 69 miles an hour. I kept it just under 70 to see what it would do. Gas consumption deteriorated to around about 10.8 by the end of that tank. Yesterday on tanks 2 and tanks residual of tanks 2 and tank 3, which was the third fill that I had, conditions were a lot more windy. I was driving 3 miles an hour quicker, albeit still 6 miles an hour under the speed limit, and then the consumption dropped to 10.5 miles to the gallon again. So wind has a big impact. By direct comparison, on my last trip out, when I was driving into the wind and most of the way coming west, I was averaging about 9.5 miles to the gallon. So the Mamba tent versus the Bushveld tent, it's a slimmer, sleeker aluminum profile, seems to have given me approximately a gallon better in terms of the consumption. So at least I get a mile per gallon better. Let me rephrase that. Yeah, so happy with that. And I will tell you that I'm also carrying a lot more weight because the fridge slider made of steel, that thing's heavy. I had my deck drawer systems repaired. I've put in a cargo net system in the back, which has got all of my heavy stuff further forward. I have the engine skid plate and I have the bigger tank, so I carry a lot more weight. So overall, I'm guessing that my aerodynamics have improved significantly by changing the tent. The awning is still the same, the Bushveld 270. So that's kind of it insofar as updates and where we're at. When I get to camp later this evening and get the rig set up, I'll give you a peep. I'll show you inside the tent. Very happy that my bedding is in there with a pillow and she closes, no problem. Absolutely minimal tucking. So I must be honest, I'm delighted with the tent. The customer service in the process of getting that plus the slider did result in, unfortunately, a little bit more frustration. But I'll give Overland Vehicle Systems a partial break because I'm very happy with the tent replacement, so thank you on that. I was not happy with the way you dealt with the shipment of that slider, so not good on that. Stay focused on the task all the way through and I'll give you 10 out of 10. But you get 9 out of 10 on one and you get 0 out of 10 on the other, so you can think about where that puts yourself. So keep working, guys. Don't give up. There's many more customers who potentially would want to use you. The gear's good. with the exception maybe of that bushveld tent. The original step was a disaster. The ladder, it looks like it's been replaced based on what I can see online. So, new tent, big improvement. All right, so I look forward to showing you what it looks like. Can't wait. I'm really getting excited and looking forward to having dinner and then finding a campsite. Chat later. So here we are, having arrived at camp and found a site out of town to camp at. Got the vehicle parked. You can see I've leveled it off there with leveling blocks. This is also a new addition. I purchased these from Camping World, the guys that have the greatest United States flags flying all across this country. So here we go. Now, one of the things that I've actually underestimated as I've shot this video is just how high this tent opens. Off memory, I believe it's 64 inches tall. So you have an enormous amount of space at the rear end of the tent, or the end of the tent, portion of the tent that sits directly above the tailgate. You will see once it's open just how high it goes. Very, very, very nice. What I like about it is obviously when it comes time to change in the tent, you can stand, albeit not upright, you can certainly stand and change. So this is the first go at getting this tent up. One or two things that I'll battle with slightly. Most notable amongst that is the actual poles for the shade net. You can see the shade screen. When you have to put those rods in, they are longer than rods that I'm used to given the height, and therefore you are working overhead and you really are battling trying to pull these rods over, while at the same time I'm trying to find the eye on the sheet to connect it onto, and you'll see it's a little bit of a schlep, but not really anything that can't be done very easily. Just really takes you do need to have a little bit of strength to hold those rods bent. It was one area that I found a little more challenging than what I thought it would be. So here you will see, in goes the rod. That's a piece of cake getting that in, but here comes the tricky part. Is now you got to bend this overhead at the length of, you can see how long that rod is. It's much taller than what my arm is, so you got to hold that overhead at a difficult angle and then try to clip it into the eye. The first one, given that the sheet is lying in a position, I can just move that rod and I can get it in. It's the second one where it no longer has play on the sheet itself, because it's already now pulled in. So to my right is where it's pulled off to. So now to get this back, this one typically is a little more challenging. So you will see me battling. And the other thing is I'm trying to do it backhanded, which is always more difficult to do than when you're working forehanded. But in she goes. There we go. The tent is up. What we got to do is get the ladder out now. There we go, we're done. So this is the new gas tank, and it stretches from just behind the driver's door all the way underneath, right the way through to the back. And you can see that's a very big improvement. That is 20 gallons more. So if we just come to this point, you will see there it is there. And that is the front door, the driver's door. So that's how big that fella is. And this is the new fridge slider that I've put in. This is from Overland Vehicle Systems. So this thing slides out and tilts, but it might not be what you would have been expecting. So let's just see how this fella operates. It's one button here, out it comes. It's all the way out, and drops down. So you'll see that it works off those pneumatic rods there, so supports the weight. Easy up, easy down. To get it back in, simply a case of lift it up, push one button, in she goes, and it locks there. Piece of cake. So what I had in the past, obviously this thing was loose, it was tied to the side of the vehicle. I had to pull it in, push it back, pull it in, push it back. And this is something that would take place all day long. I'd have something here, I would have to move it to there, I'd have to pull the fridge down, I'd have to push it up. It really was such a pain, and it wasn't user friendly, to be honest. So it worked for the while, but now I have this, and I'm chuffed because it's a very simple one-hand friendly solution. Out she comes, slide it all the way out, and let it drop. There we go. So deep freeze, loaded ice cream and steak. The fridge, I've kind of just turned up the temperature so that I could put my beer and cream and that type of stuff in it, but it's loaded with meat as well. So, but it'll be fine because it's vacuum packed, it's been pre-cooked, all of that kind of stuff. So we're good to go. Got the LED lights installed up the top. I'm not going to put the awning out tonight. Even though there is rain around, I think if it rains, I'm just going to get in the tent and call it a day. So there we are. So now it's time to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the notifications.